There we go. Okay, welcome everybody and good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the December 20th, 2021 meeting of the Public Works and Capital Improvements Committee of the City of Norwich. Present are City Engineer Brian Long, Director of Public Works Patrick McLaughlin, Alderman Swanjeet Singh, Alderwoman Stacy Gould, and President Pro Tem Joseph A. DeLucia. Our first item for the new term is the election of a chairperson for the term for this committee. So are there any nominations for chairperson of the committee?
I'll make a nomination for Joseph DeLucia for chairperson.
Thank you. Is there a second? I'll second it. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, we will vote by roll call. Alderwoman Gould. She can hear me.
Tara's not on here either.
Oh yeah, Tara isn't here either.
But I'll be.
Yeah. Oh, plus we have the recording.
Yeah, we do have the recording too. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Stacy's muted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna text her and say, I don't know if she can hear us, but we can't hear her.
Nothing in the chat.
Nothing coming up in the chat either.
Having speaker issues, somebody said?
Yes, yeah. Okay, we'll hold for a moment.
All right.
See if we
We got
can
all
work
kinds
that.
of glitches today.
Yeah,
I can't
see if
get
we can
in.
work that out. Yep, no problem.
We'll iron these bugs out.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not like our first meeting though.
No,
It's the first. I haven't had that problem before.
no.
Is Tara over at her desk?
No,
No, she's not here. She usually
Oh.
logs in from her house.
Oh,
She's not
okay.
on.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Sorry,
about-
some
Okay, it's all right.
issues with my computer.
Were you able to hear us at all?
No,
Oh, okay. All right, well then we'll back up. We were on our first agenda item, actually number 2, election of chairperson. Alderman Singh nominated myself. It was seconded. I asked for if there were any other nominations. So that's where I'll pick that up again. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Third and final time, are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call. Alderwoman Gould,
yes,
Alderman Singh,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Thank you very much for your support. And we'll move forward. Approval of minutes. This was the November,
15th.
yeah, it looks like submitted on the 17th. Was the meeting was
Yeah.
held on the 15th. Thank you for that. I was not able to attend. However, the draft minutes were circulated by the recording secretary. I'll entertain a motion to adopt those minutes.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of the November 15th meeting.
Thank you. I'll second that. Are there any corrections, discussion, deletions, additions to those minutes?
I don't have any.
All right, thank you. So by roll call, Alderwoman Gould,
Yes.
Alderman Singh,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. The minutes from the November 15th meeting are unanimously adopted. Thank you. Citizen comment. Are there any citizens present on the call that would like to make a comment to the committee? Are there any citizens present on the call that would like to make a comment to the committee? Third and final time, are there any citizens present that would like to make a comment to the committee? Hearing and seeing none, we call citizen comment closed for today. Item number 5, old business. Item A, Public Works project updates. Take it away, Mr. McLaughlin.
Okay, the Sherman Street Bridge is going out to bid on Wednesday. Everything's in place and bids will be opened January 19th.
Yep.
So that's a kind of a milestone. That's been a
You're
long
right.
time coming. Now, we don't have all the permits in place from DEP, so we are authorized to bid it, but we may have to extend the bid opening if the permits are not secured by that time. We're having ongoing discussions with the DEP, and they're not, plans were submitted to them 9 or 10 months ago, and we finally got some response from just a month or so ago. So it's been a little frustrating, but anyway, it's out
Can
to
I just
bid.
ask? Can I just ask a quick question on that? So how would the permits impact the bids, or if at all?
Well, they could possibly, because there could be certain conditions that go along with the permit that would change things for the contractor or whatever. So that's why we won't be opening the bids probably until after the permits are in place, so that way we can issue an addendum and clarify if there are any changes to the plans
Okay.
to, in the process of getting those permits. That's the issue. It's kind of unusual to put a project out to bid without having the permits in place, but the DOT wanted to go ahead and do that. And they, in one way, they almost feel like they put more pressure on the regulatory agencies to get the permits out there if it's already out to bid. And, they've had the plans for almost a year. So,
Yeah.
So if there were addenda that are caused by the conditions on the permits, do we have room in contingency to cover those addenda?
well, most likely, I mean, we don't know for sure. We haven't, we're dealing with cost estimates at this point. Until we
Okay.
open the bids, we don't really know exactly where. And I'm not sure, I haven't, seen the state's obligations yet. I know we have money in our road bond that we can use to cover our 10% cost, which will probably be at least $1 million,
Mhm.
for the 10% of the cost. But until they open the bids, we're not quite sure. The latest cost estimate was in the $10 million range, but then you have the inspection fees and everything. So, it's roughly a $12 million project probably.
Okay. Any questions on that? Because that's a big project. So
It is. It's the
Right.
biggest one we've had in a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
only reason why I jumped in on it, because that is a big one. Any questions
Yeah.
from the other members of the committee?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I had requested in past, I've requested capital funds to help pay for it, but we don't necessarily need those because we have the road bond, which we still have I think it's pretty close to $5 million in the road bond, so it's,
Mhm.
we have the money established for the project.
Okay.
So, or at least the city's share of it. So, yeah, the paving, we're in discussions with the contractor from last year's paving to continue that contract as was allowed in the bid process, to extend it for a second year. So we're in those discussions. I think it'll move forward. The paving contractor had a death in the family, which will impact their business some, but we're gonna, continue on with them. It's they've assured us that they can still deliver, and so we're moving forward with that. We've had great success with them over the last 10 or 12 years with the same contractor, which is rebid every 2 years. But so we're going to be renewing it again with them for this coming year. The New London Turnpike project, we did finish the negotiations and came up with a design fee for the TAP grant, for the design of that New London Turnpike, the northerly end of that, for the pedestrian and bike improvements. So they're going to be starting the design on that shortly, once we sign the agreements and everything. But we did complete the negotiations. And we've also met then with the designers for the, we had a request for proposals out for the design of the Ymca Sleep Heritage Park. And that there was only one firm that submitted a proposal. That was the one that had done the master plan, Malone and McBroom, which has gotten bought out. Now it's SLR Company International or something, but it's the same people that were at Malone and McBroom who did the concept plan. So that we're moving forward with them. They're putting together the scope. We met with them last week, and we're moving forward with that, with the design of the park, basically implementation of the concept plan, utilizing the ARP funding, which was authorized for that. Dunham Street's
progressing the small portion that they can do before they actually have their hands on granite curb. They've started replacing catch basin tops out there. And all the trees have been cleared that needed to be cleared for the project. I think at this point, they're just getting ready to button things up for the winter. And they have provided that they have a commitment from a granite curb supplier to be on board as soon as the startup happens in the springtime. So that shouldn't be anything that we need to wait for at that point. It should just be, they should just be able to move ahead.
Yeah, so the Mohegan Park Disc Golf, I don't know, that's not all the park improvement projects. So we've got a few different projects up there approved with ARP funds. One was the disc golf expansion. Another one was the playscape rehabilitation, redo for the younger children's toddler play area there by the beach. And then the other is a fitness course kind of thing. So all those are moving forward. The playground equipment and the fitness equipment is out to bid now, I think.
It is, I saw
Yeah,
that today.
and the disc golf course, we've done some preliminary walks up there and, started to identify those holes on the ground. And I don't know if anybody, I guess there was some social media comments about when we were up there doing some layout work, but also trying to identify the property lines. So we actually, went over to the property lines. That flagging is not going to be the holes. That was just, we were trying to identify the property lines. There might have been some misunderstanding about that. I don't know, but anyway, we tend to have, if you try to refute all those claims or whatever, a lot of times it just gets worse. So we tend to try to just ignore them and move forward and try to, if people call, answer the questions, correctly or whatever. We actually met with the one of the property owner who started the thing. We met with the husband was out there. We were talking to him and it seemed fine. And then next thing we know, I hear we were on social media about it, you know. Anyway, that's moving forward. I'm not sure if there'll be further resistance from the neighbors or not. You know, it's a potential.
That is.
You know, anytime, you know, it is a potential. So I don't know. We'll be having a Mohegan Park Committee meeting here in January, and we'll discuss it a little more then. Perhaps we might want to do some kind of informational meeting so we put correct information out there, you know.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, just on that, I mean, I would ask that maybe we reach out to those adjacent property owners and invite them directly, you know what I mean? You know, personally, so to speak, to the Mohegan Park Improvement Committee meeting, right? So that they know specifically when it is, so that they can come and hear what has to be said. You know, and then at least we're taking a step in their direction so that to allay some of their fears, because I did see those posts on Facebook. And if when you say an informational, do you mean an informational for the council or just
well, a lot of times we
at the
just
Mohegan Park meeting?
yeah. A lot of times you set up an informational meeting at a separate date when you don't have any other meetings, you know, and open it up, and the council could certainly come, but
Sure.
it's more just to
Public information.
yeah, public information.
Right, kind of like when the DOT comes in and just tells us what they've got up their sleeve, right? That, I think that would,
Exactly.
yeah, that would be perfect. I don't think it has to be an informational for the council. I mean, that's just me. But
Right.
yeah, definitely, whatever we're going to do, you know, if we let those property owners specifically know, you know, by personal contact to say, hey, we're having an informational session, please come. If you have any questions, that's the time to ask them. And then, you know, then they know that, you know, the imaginations don't start to run wild.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's about it. Can you think of other things? Well, the project, the
The-
23 Union Street.
23 Union Street, the conference room, we've gotten a bid in for the renovation of the lower floor conference room area. So that'll be moving forward shortly. So that'll be, once that's completed, that'll be an available space for meetings as needed. The only other thing that I can think of is we will be going out for proposals shortly with 3 of our on-call engineers for the design for the New London Turnpike South, we'll call it, section project that's in conjunction with Montville going from 82 to 32. So that one's moving ahead, and we'll be starting to work on design once we pick one of those 3 firms. So I think that's all I can think of.
Now, who take care of the elevators and stuff at City Hall?
That would be building maintenance. That's part of Public Works.
That's
They're
part of Public
supposed to be
Works.
fixed Wednesday. They're down. I think you've been notified that the elevators are currently down
Yeah, just
today,
down, yeah.
as of this morning. The service person came in to try what we thought was going to be the fix, and they found something else, so that it probably won't be fixed until Wednesday. But that's a tentative, you know, that's when they're hoping to have them back in service. But that's
Okay.
part of building maintenance.
Any questions on the rest of these projects from the committee members?
Just one on the conference room that gonna go on Union Street.
Mhm.
So are we doing any technology upgrades with that conference room as well, or
Nope.
just the physical?
It's just physical revamp of the
Okay.
entire space. There's a small kitchenette in there that we're eliminating and just creating the main table for the meetings will be moved to
To
an
the
area
other
where
side.
you don't have to look around columns to see what's going on and be part of the conversation. So
But that it does raise a good point. I mean,
Yeah.
we should look into that with IT about
Yeah.
running, if if we do need some lines down there, now would be the time to
Exactly.
do it.
And the other thing is, let's say elevator is not working at City Hall.
Yeah.
We need a second place
Yeah.
where public can come and look at the meeting
Mhm.
or say what they have to say. You know, that'll be another
A
backup plan
backup, yeah.
for the handicap access thing. And we do have access from the backside.
23 Union?
So.
Yep.
If we
Yeah,
have to
but
run
just
any,
having those technology upgrades now would be a good suggestion.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's anything down there now for a like
nothing, we used to have
internet
our
or anything.
Commission of City Plan meetings.
Yeah.
So I'd rather get that place equipped
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
a few
Get the
technology
wiring
things.
in.
Yeah,
Now's the time when they got it all ripped apart.
exactly.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm sorry. The conference room, aren't we talking about the lower level of 23 Union?
Yes.
Right, so that's not handicapped accessible.
Well, it's gonna be it's gonna be made. The threshold on the door is gonna be repaired, and the paving in the back is gonna be fixed as part of a separate community development block grant funds. So it's going to be improved on that aspect too. Right?
Yeah. There is currently the ability to get a person in a wheelchair in through the back door into that area. There are some deficiencies that need to be addressed, like Pat was saying, with the threshold and make the path from the parking to get there. But it historically has been used as an accessible entrance. It just needs some upgrades.
All right, I thought you were talking about the lower level.
We are.
Yeah, we are.
We are.
So
That
where,
was always considered accessible until just the last year or so, 2 years.
okay.
Okay,
Alright.
any other questions from the committee? Okay, on to item B, property disposition.
Okay, I guess you've got it. The person that had made the best offer for Robbins Court had backed out, so that's back on your agenda for tonight. But
Yep.
it's almost this. It's a very similar price. There were a lot of bids on that one, so think of it's still $80,000, I think. So the top buyer had the top bidder wanted some other concession. They wanted all the utilities turned on so they could do better inspections and all this kind of stuff. And so we just moved to the second bidder because that's not normally what we do. They're advertised as is. And, we've never turned utilities on for other prospective buyers before.
Okay,
So anyway, that was back on your agenda, but still moving forward. I guess the biggest one potentially here is the YMCA building. We received proposals. We had a request for proposals out there last month, and in the end of November, they came back in, and there was only one proposal submitted from Mattern Construction. It seems to be a pretty good proposal, and we're evaluating that, and we're actually going to be, we had a meeting with them last week, and things seem very positive. And I'm planning, we're going to be putting together a grant application. There's this new grant that just popped up, Communities Challenge Grant through the Department of Economic and Community Development, that just seems like it would be geared toward a project like this. So we're going to be requesting a grant for that. The applications have to be in by January 14th. So it's got to happen fast, really fast. And in fact, we're going to be probably putting together a resolution of some sort for the first January council meeting, because the grant would like, one of the things it wants is a resolution with support of the council. So we're trying to, it's going to be tough to get things finalized by that time, but there should be some conceptual understandings and agreements, probably at least between Matter and the city by that time. I mean, we're working it, to try to come to that. But it's a very favorable, it's a great, could be a great thing. They want to reuse most of the building and demolish a small a portion of it. That central, how would you describe that?
The rear central section of the building would be the part that was demolished to create a parking area. The main front section of the building would stay in place. The racquetball courts would stay in place as a potential tenant space, and the existing pool area next to Catholic Charities would be maintained as
fill it in,
they'd fill in the pool, and they'd use that space as basically like an equipment, a storage place for
inside storage
for
like
for
materials
some of their things. Yeah.
So that's a very encouraging sign, and we're hoping to move forward with it. And it's quick, it could. They want this grant wants shovel-ready projects, and Mattern wants to jump right in and get going. So seems like the timing, maybe the stars are kind of aligning. Hopefully.
Do we know any time frame on when they reply on our grant application?
Yeah, although they're going to make decisions like in March.
In March, okay, cool.
We've also applied for some other environmental cleanup funds through DECD and through the EPA. Deanna put those in.
Okay.
So there could be, and
There's a potential for 3 different grants that could apply to this project.
EPA one, though, the time frame is a little longer. It's not, but the city could find out about the DECD brownfield one about the same time as the community challenges. So it could all come together. Mattern would certainly, it would be they would be there. If there's opportunities for these grants, they can slow down their projected schedule by a couple months to see how these grants play out. But it's looking pretty good. That's the big one for property disposition. I'm not sure. There's not much else going on. The other one, 98 Washington Street, the purchasing agent is working on a RFP for that. He's finalizing that.
Grove Street.
Pat, has 98 been cleaned out?
They took out most of it. I don't think we've done a real cleaning of it, but from what I understand, it's mostly just like a few cardboard boxes and some leftover gallon jugs from when it had water in them and things like. It's not like full of stuff like Robbins Court was.
Oh, okay, excellent.
They did a pretty decent job by giving them a couple extra months, at least 2 extra months. They did methodically and slowly move most of the stuff out of there.
Are we expecting somebody? I saw a car pulling. I'll go check on it.
I'd like to circle back to the YMCA for a moment.
Okay.
Well, my first question is planning and neighborhood services involved in these conversations with the potential developer?
Yeah, the planning office. Yeah, Deanna was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And
what they're doing fits in zoning wise, and they're yeah.
And the second part is, we were all, well, at least I was led to believe that the building was unsalvageable.
I guess beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
When we did the walkthroughs with Mattern, they were very enthusiastic about what they saw as far as the bones of the sections of buildings that they're going to retain. I think some of the more dilapidated parts of the building that aren't salvageable are the areas in the area that they're going to be taking down. in the back, which I'm not really sure of which sections of the building were built, but I think those might be the older sections of the building that aren't as viable. But they, ripping it down and rebuilding it, they were very enthusiastic about what they could do in the proposal that they put together.
Okay.
Yeah, there's, the structure of it, the beams and everything, they were
Yeah,
fairly comfortable with. They came through with a demolition. They made multiple site visits to it. They came back with a demolition contractor and with
they'll be stripping it down to basically a skeleton
To
and
the
then
bones.
and then rebuilding it with what they have there. I don't necessarily think it would have been economically feasible to try to revamp what was there for that building to begin with,
Mhm.
but they have the means to.
well, the budget, they were projecting a $4 million project for the
Mhm.
building is what their estimate was for the rehab and the cleanups and
The renovation.
which is kind of in line with what the consultant had suggested. It was going to be like $800,000 worth of cleanup work if everything was demolished. It'll be slightly less than that if everything's not demolished, but it'll be probably in that order of magnitude.
Okay. Any other properties that we should discuss?
I can't think of it. We haven't had a new list or anything. I mean, there's been less foreclosures now. I guess a lot of them are being sold tax sales or whatever. We haven't, the city now with the economy a little better, people are selling them rather than getting them into foreclosure, I guess.
Have we had any interest or any movement whatsoever on the former Martin Luther King Center property on Fairmont?
We're not planning to dispose of that really.
Okay. All right.
We want to keep it we could add on a little bit of parking associated with the fire department. Not a lot because it's a challenge, topographically challenged, but we could possibly get another 10 parking spaces in there.
Yeah, I again, just curious because I think that it behooves the city to hang on to it. I just didn't know if anybody has expressed an interest that would change that decision at all.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. All right. Anything else from the other members?
No.
Okay, moving on to item C, the Norwich Sister mural.
Yeah, I just put that on there just as an up. I mean, I don't know if anybody's been by there lately, but it's pretty much done.
Mhm.
I was down there Friday and it was, pretty much done. They got really lucky with weather the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's been unseasonably warm. Absolutely right.
And we did had a community paint days indoor at CIC Gallery to accommodate the venue. So they can paint all these pieces indoor.
Uh-huh.
So that was a very good community effort that was seen.
Okay.
Okay. No, it's great. I just don't know, didn't know if there were any issues came up, is the reason for it being on this agenda, if there was some sort of an issue or anything that we needed to discuss, other than the fact that it looks like it's principally.
Yeah, they're going to have a unveiling on Martin Luther
Yeah.
King Day, the 17th of January.
Okay.
So they're going to put like the couple days before, they're going to put some tarps up
Sure.
over it or something.
All right.
They want to put a sign up down in that grass area below it too. So it doesn't, I didn't print that out. There's just explaining a little bit more about it than what can be garnered. It won't be quite as it won't be as significant a sign as what they did for what the Historic Society did with some of those other plaques that went before the Monument
just
Committee.
like-
It's going to be a more like, because it won't be there. I don't imagine the mural will be there forever. I don't know. Maybe it will.
Who knows?
Right. Well, that remains to be seen, but do you mean like a sign like the ones that we put on the little green in front of NFA and next to the Teal House on Broadway,
Well,
those kinds of
Not
things?
not as permanent, not as significant of those signs, because they don't have a budget, I guess, for signs of that magnitude.
Okay. All right then. Item number 6, new business. We don't have any items listed, but we could certainly add anything under new business that we should discuss.
Well, I might just mention, I don't know if it's new business or other, but tonight on your agenda is a bucket truck, the capital, some reallocation of some capital funds.
Yeah.
So one of the items, some of the work is at the police department, but also a bucket truck is on that we, our bucket truck had a fire back in like September 1st and burnt, totaled. It was a 1999 truck that we had gotten from Public Utilities and used for probably 5 or 6 years at least. It wasn't it wasn't a tree truck per se either. Those bucket trucks, utility bucket trucks, are a little bit different than tree cutting bucket trucks, but it served our purpose for quite a few years, and we used it a lot, and we got quite, proficient at cutting roadside trees above the road. That bucket went up 65 feet. The one that we're looking at is that we've got a tentative, tentative agreement with is for a used truck that Linden had here that used to use that truck here in Norwich, but they no longer have the contract with Norwich. That's through NPU. Asplund is the current tree firm. So Linden's decided to sell this truck to us.
Pat,
And
do we know the age of the truck? Because we're spending $110,000 for it.
yeah, it's 2012. And it's got only 30,000 miles on it, but it's got the engine runtime is fairly significant. But we've done comparisons with other trucks. There's none in this area basically, but if you go, you can find trucks all over the country. And really the comparison that Bob Castronova and John Raymond have been researching it the last couple of weeks, and it's really pretty much the market value for that truck. A new one is about 185,000. But all the equipment, the truck is really tight. All the controls, everything, everything is, the Linden took very good care of he takes very good care of all of his trucks and equipment. But, the ones we're looking at around the country probably weren't taken as well care of either. Because they were from large commercial, most of them are like Asplund's a internet, world cross nationwide company. And a lot of the trucks that are on the website were from them. And from what we've seen, they don't take quite as good a care of their equipment as Linden does.
Mm-hmm.
So we feel that it's a good buy. And if you order a new truck now, it's going to be at least 9 months out, and it could be even longer. There's just a shortage of and everything else. It's tough to come by, and bucket trucks are in something that's been needed with, you know, we get so many storms that are worse and worse all the time. It's a very important tool for us. And to be without one for very long, you know, really crimps on what we can do and how much money we have to spend on, you know, from contractors to take those trees down. Because when there's hazardous trees, we got to get them down, you know, whether our guys are doing them or somebody else is doing it, but they need to come down. We had bumped up our budget for tree removal the last couple of years because of all the dead trees around mostly from the gypsy caterpillars a couple of years ago. You know, there's just a lot of dead trees out there. And but now when we get this newer, bigger truck, we should be able to, you know, tweak down that the annual operating expenses for, you know, tree removal too, because that 75-foot lift will give us, you know, capabilities of doing even more than what we could with the old truck. So I would ask that you know, look favorably upon that tonight.
And but it's going to impact our sidewalk budget by $100,000. So.
Well, this past year, yeah, I guess the way that Josh worded the ordinance is these expenditures that we're asking for are more urgent than the other expenditures. But so we haven't had as much interest in the sidewalk program as of late as we did the last couple of years, you know, back 3 or 4 years ago. So we've been getting $100,000 a year in sidewalk monies, and we haven't this past year, based on short staffing, a combination of less interest, less people contacting us about the sidewalk program, and we had an engineer out for a good portion of this past year. And so we got behind a little bit in the sidewalk work. So there's extra monies in there that we, you know, aren't as urgent right now as the cutting of the trees along the roadsides.
All right, so this isn't decimating our sidewalk account?
No.
Okay. I wasn't sure if we were
You
taking.
still will have money in the sidewalk account. Plus I can use bond funds for sidewalks too, if need be. That's one of the road bond will pay for sidewalk work too.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Pat, are you planning on being at the meeting tonight?
I wasn't. John, I asked John if he wanted me there, and he said he didn't think so. He said Josh could probably explain it.
Yeah.
For this item?
Yeah, and that's right, and that's fine. You know, I just
Yeah.
as long as either John or Josh is prepared to answer some of these questions. You know, Stacy's, you know, I know that other members of the council have some of the same questions as Stacy just said, you know, or just asked. So
yeah, I was anticipating that.
Yep. And certainly, you know, either Stacy, you know, because she asked the questions here, she could reiterate those answers as well. You know, that's fine. It's just as long as the whole council is comfortable with this decision. I just have a couple questions. So the truck that burned had the boom on it was how tall?
65 feet.
And this new one's 75 feet?
Yeah, it's basically the scissor. The platform goes up 10 feet. That gives you that extra. It's a real tree truck versus a utility truck.
Versus a utility truck, right? You know, some of these other trucks from around the country, they may have had fewer engine. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but they may have had fewer engine hours on them. But if, you know, we're shipping a truck of that size across any great distance, that would be an additional expense and more of an unknown, would you say?
Oh, definitely. When we had this truck down at the, you know, they brought it down at Fleet, and we drove it over the, you know, we have a pit where you look at the trucks from underneath, and, you know, it was all checked out. We had one of our like we have a gentleman here that's been worked for a tree company for 10 or 12 years before he came and worked here. So he operated these trucks for 10 years, and he was the one that was testing it out and checking it for tightness and everything else. But the mechanics also looked at the other the physical part of it, the truck chassis part.
Okay. All right.
So it was, we vetted it out pretty well, I think.
Right.
And we know, at some point the engine may need to be replaced. But that's an issue with these type of trucks, I guess. We can do that. It's about a $25,000 task to replace an engine. And it may be necessary in 3 or 4 years from now, but and we're going into it with our eyes wide open. All these other trucks that are used like that have that same potential.
Yeah, they don't drive around a lot, but they run constantly while they're being used. That's all
Right.
right. That, I think we all understand that. About how many hours a year do you think your department puts on a piece of equipment like that? Like that old truck that burned. But how many hours a year did that thing get put on it? And spitball the answer. I didn't expect you to have that data at your fingertips.
Yeah, maybe 100 hours a month. So maybe
Okay. All right.
1,200 hours.
A little more than half the year.
Or maybe a little, probably 1,000 hours,
Okay.
because some like in January, we'll be using it in the winter most of the time, unless you get, inclement weather.
Right. Okay. So it doesn't seem to me like we had any real new business. That one's kind of other business. Do we have any other business?
Well, something I just heard of.
You go ahead.
Well, so I just got a call this afternoon, right before the meeting, about traffic issues up at Dodd, up around in the business park, because of the testing is getting quite lined up in the last week or so. So I just shot Pat McCormick an email about maybe we could get those hours extended earlier in the day, so that it's not such a buildup and traffic issue late in the day. So I think they're looking into that, because
Okay.
I wasn't aware of it, but now with the more people needing to get tested,
Right. Yep.
it's become an issue. It wasn't an issue up until a week or so ago, I guess.
It's probably a lot of people
The
getting
weekly
tested.
testing is kicking in full blast right now for the unvaccinated people.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and they're only doing testing up there from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock.
Correct.
Yes.
yeah, that's
So I want to try to get them to start earlier, so maybe it's not, it's more spread out.
right. The people that can go during the day hopefully would, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. Anything else?
I just shared something which I saw today. There was a sign missing, a street sign on Summit and Gear. So I brought that to their knowledge.
Oh, okay. Where it was?
It's on Summit Street and the
Yep.
Gear Avenue, I believe. It's
Yep.
the Gear Avenue.
Yep. Yeah.
Not sure how that sign is missing all of a sudden, but
It happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sometimes they're
Maybe somebody
Sometimes-
liked the Summit
Yeah.
sign or
somebody
something.
named Gear like the
could be,
sign, or
yeah.
somebody liked Summit, who knows? But yeah, we'll take care of that.
Okay. Anything else?
And two
Okay.
other signs were pretty faded up right by the Bacchus. But I think those were the civic signs, and I think city manager is already looking into that or trying to contact those
Yeah,
civic.
somebody was working
organizations.
on that
Yeah.
already.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, a motion to adjourn is in order.
Make a
I'll
motion
second.
to adjourn.
Seconded
Second.
by Alderman Singh. Thank you very much. Alderman Gould,
Yes.
Alderman Singh.
Yes.
Chair votes yes, we are adjourned. It is 4:57 PM. Thank you all for your time and for your hard work, and we'll see you all soon.
Okay, thank you.
Take care.